Hello and welcome back to Life by Design. I'm Karen Kolonovich of Healing in Bloom, and today's topic is about how to combat this disease in our society that we know as racism. In the wake of this past week's event, it's easy for us to feel at a loss when it comes to being part of the solution. And today I wanted to share a story with you from many, many years ago. I was fresh out of college, 23 years old, had my first classroom of ninth grade English students, and I was just over the moon to be able to work with these young adults. In the very first 2 days of class, I make it a point for all of the kids and myself to learn each other's names and create an environment of comfort and safety and connectedness. Even though I had over 100 students, I would make sure that I, along with the kids, remembered everyone's name so that everyone felt seen. During the first week of school, I noticed that there were two girls in particular who thought it would be funny to call the only Black boy in class Michael Jackson. And having observed this sort of microaggression, being sensitive and empathic, I immediately knew that that was not coming from a kind place. And the boy didn't say anything, he just ignored it, but I knew he heard because the girls were so loud and made sure that he heard. And I could sense his shame and embarrassment in that moment. And while I couldn't take the kids aside right then, I made it a point to talk to the girls after class that day. When I asked them why they had chosen to call this boy Michael Jackson, they said to me that they thought it was funny. And I asked them what was funny about it. And they said, well, because he's Black and we just thought he looked like Michael Jackson, which he didn't, by the way. And so I asked them, I said, what part of you thought that that would be okay? And one of the girls said, well, that's the kind of thing my father says. And come to find out, her dad was connected to a particular white hate group that was local to the area. And then I understood. And I knew that I was working with children, and children are a product of the environment that they grow up in. While the girls knew it was not kind, I knew that that was coming from the parents. And the root of that type of racism was something that I couldn't go home and talk to their parents about. There was limited influence that I could have in that moment. But as I spoke with the girls and said, in my classroom, it is not okay to refer to someone as something other than their name. Because when you refer to someone as their correct name, it's a sign of respect. And if you do something other than that without having any kind of rapport with the person, then it shows disrespect. As sensitives, we really feel the sting and the pain of those types of microaggressions and those more extreme, obvious displays of violence and hatred. But what you can do is respond in those crucial moments where you notice something that's not okay. And if we all do our part and stand up to these types of subtle displays of racism and discrimination, then we're all the better for it. And sometimes you actually can affect someone at the heart level, which truly does start to turn around their entire perspective. So don't doubt your power to do that. What ended up happening was I had the girls apologize to the boy the next day, right before class. He accepted, And the next 9.5 or so months of the year, those two girls became two of my greatest classroom helpers and positive people in the classroom. And the boy, he was quiet by nature, but he was one of the most dedicated, hardworking students in that class that year. The reason why I'm sharing this with you today is to remind you of the power and influence that you have in everyday situations to stop this type of racism that isn't always violent in a literal way, but it has the same roots and just a more subtle expression. Being sensitive and empathic, you are more able to pick up on that. You're more able to notice it. And if you're more able to notice it, you have the power to speak up, making sure, of course, that it is safe and productive. In this instance, being a teacher of children, it was my job to foster that environment of safety and comfort. And so that's what I did. And later that spring, I was able to teach To Kill a Mockingbird, which was an extended teaching moment for kids about making right choices and seeing through the injustices of society, noticing the truth of what's going on. And so if you are questioning your power in making a positive difference, I'm just here to remind you that as you go out into the world again, you will be presented with many opportunities to be able to stand up and speak up and educate yourself and be kind and influence others in a very positive way. While we can't change everybody, we can do a small part in creating a more collective environment in our world for diversity and respect for each other as human beings. Thank you so much for listening to this message today. And if you feel it may uplift someone that you know, please share it with them. Thank you again for joining me, and I'll see you next time on Life by Design.